We live. All right, we are. All right, happy Sunday, everyone. Welcome to the Obelisk Lounge. Let me make sure I have the live and everything set up. It looks a bit grainy, but we're going to go with it. Because I've been trying to get this video recorded since yesterday. So I said, let me just go ahead and do a live and just go with it instead of trying to troubleshoot. But anywho, excuse me, I have my monitor open. Let me mute myself. Okay, so happy Sunday, everyone. Welcome to the Obelisk Lounge. My name is Justice, and today's topic, really quick, it's not going to be a long one. I want to introduce some of you to the Demiurge, if you are unfamiliar with the Demiurge. And so, I'm going to be introducing the Demiurge as one of the reasons your prayers may go unanswered, right? Some people feel like, God may not hear them. They may feel as though their prayers, are not answered. If they are answered, they're not answered in the best way that they may want them to, or they may not manifest the way that it is that they thought that it would manifest. And so there's many reasons, right, as to why that may actually take place. But the main reason, or one of the reasons that I'm speaking about today, is the Demiurge. Okay. So let's go ahead and get into it. So the first part of the video, I'm going to be speaking about the Demiurge from the Gnostic Christian historical perspective. And then because of that perspective, and just because of, many different opinions or schools of thought about the Demiurge, I'm going to be sharing some channel information that I actually got from the true God, the creator God, the prime universal supreme creator, as Dr. Delbert Blair would say. I'm going to be sharing the information that I actually got from the true God, as well as my spiritual court, to help fill in some of those gaps that I got when I was studying the Demiurge. So I was first actually introduced to the Demiurge maybe about 7 or 8 years ago. A spiritual teacher that I used to follow was my initial introduction into the Demiurge and the archons. And so I'm going to be doing a separate video on the archons. And so this one in particular is just going to be on the false God, or who I like to call the false God, right? The false representation of God. So just to get back on topic, so there are many reasons as to why our prayers aren't heard or aren't answered at times. But one of the many reasons, especially when people are praying to who they think God is, or the creator, right, the supreme, the universe, whomever, when you are praying to this supreme power, who you think this supreme power is, it's actually the Demiurge that is answering your questions sometimes, depending on if you know how to pray, depending on who it is that you think you're praying to, and a few other different things of that nature, right? So, the Gnostics refer to the Demiurge as Yaldabaoth. It is something about that name that tickles me, because it just sounds so ancient and mystical, and mythical, like it sounds like a myth, right? But it is, but one of the names that the Gnostics refer to the Demiurge as is Yaldabaoth. Yaldabaoth in Aramaic is Samael, and Samael in Aramaic means the blind God. And so, which is why I refer to Demiurge as the false representation of God. And so, we're going to get into why I refer to Demiurge as that. And one thing I also want to call out too, and forgive me if this video, as I progress, may feel like it's all over the place. Just stay with me and bring it together, okay? So, the Demiurge, if I'm not mistaken, was first, like, the idea of this false god, or this blind god, was first brought into play by Plato, which you all know Plato is a philosopher. I would say that Plato was a historian, a philosopher, and he just fell into that category. And so to Plato, the Demiurge was not actually something that was negative to him. It was something that was just he looked at the demiurge as just like this grand architect. And so the way that I'm going to speak about and identify with the demiurge today is again from the Gnostic perspective, where they have more of a negative perspective of the demiurge. And I agree with that perspective for a lot of different reasons, because look at our planet. Look at the history of our planet. There has been so much destruction, so much turmoil, so much suffering, and different things like that, of that nature on our planet. And so, if we truly had a creator, now this is my opinion. Don't be getting in my comments trying to argue with me. Okay, I don't do arguments, and I don't do spiritual debates. Okay, but one of the questions that it is that I had is like, okay, so if the creator of our world, God, who most people know God to be, right, is so benevolent and so powerful, then then why is there so much chaos, so much suffering, so much turmoil, against innocent people too, not even people who perpetuate the sickness of the earth, but people who are innocent bystanders in all of this. Like why would a creator that the Bible may, or any type of Judeo-Abrahamic religion, might posit this figure to be, why would they allow so much of this stuff to go on? And so, which is why I'm introducing those of you who may not know about the demiurge, to the demiurge, because when I discovered this about 7 or 8 years ago, it answered a lot of my questions. And the demiurge, or who the demiurge is actually, with my communing with the actual true creator, um, is what struck this video to go ahead and come along to. And it also gave birth to my spirit communication one-on-one classes as well. I'll get to that a little bit later. But again, the demiurge is one of the many reasons why there is so much turmoil and suffering on the planet. And that is because the earthly realm, as well as our dimensions, were all designed with those intentions in mind, as well as some of human creation also was designed with those chaotic intentions in mind. So I would describe the Gnostics, as I have not introduced them necessarily to you all yet, because I just assume maybe people know, maybe y'all don't know, but let me just tell you just in case you don't know. So the Gnostics are who I would describe as an older sect of Christianity, who are more aligned with mysticism and esoteric frameworks. From my own understanding, they are very different from the Judeo-Abrahamic and Abrahamic Christian denominations, because they have pieced together some of the lost books of the Bible. And so they use those lost books in addition to the Holy Bible as we know it today, to come up with their principles and their frameworks and their belief systems and everything that has to do with Gnostic Christianity. And so if you are a practicing Gnostic, okay, not somebody that may just study like myself, just like different spiritual cosmologies and pantheons and different things like that, but like an actual practicing Gnostic, then feel free to add to that explanation in the comment section if I missed anything in particular about y'all. But that is my understanding of of Gnostic Christianity, as well as the demiurge. So now let me give you a little bit more details and information about how this being came to fruition. So the demiurge is the false representation of the God of our universe, of our reality, of the dimensions. I want to say, maybe some people may say up into the eighth dimension, ninth dimension, and different things of that nature. That the demiurge rules everything, or created everything, from the eighth or ninth dimension on down. It just depends on which school of thought you come from. And I say that because I haven't actually confirmed in the spirit world for myself for this to be true, because I don't like to regurgitate information just for the sake of regurgitating it. I like to actually witness it, because I do have the spiritual aptitudes that it is that I have. I like to go and investigate and figure out the truth for myself. But that is what some schools of thought say. So the Gnostic Christians, and I'm just looking at my notes so I can stay on task, but the Gnostic Christians, they say that the demiurge was birthed from the Holy Sophia. Sophia, for those of you that may not know, is a supreme I can liken her to like a supreme deity, basically. But to Gnostic Christians, she is an aeon. An aeon is can be likened to like maybe like an archangel or some other type of great divine being with great power, with great just with great power, when enmity and different things of that nature. So she gave birth to the demiurge, and so when she gave birth to him, she gave birth to him out of when she gave birth to the demiurge, she found him to be very arrogant, very profane, very just contrary to the spirit of the pleroma. The pleroma is what the Gnostics call. It translates directly to English to call the fullness, but basically the pleroma is like the heavens, okay? In the heavens beyond our eighth, ninth dimensions, right? So like the heavens where the supreme creator and so many other divine beings, actually come from, right? Not the false representations of those divine beings, but those actual divine beings themselves, like our angels, like even some of our elevated ancestors, right? Like the supreme creator himself, like some of our spirit guides and different things of that nature. So according to the Gnostics, he came out all disoriented this way, or misrepresented, because Sophia gave birth to him out of desperation, and because she was supposedly not and because she supposedly did not create the demiurge with her divine partner. And then also, she did not get permission from the supreme true God to actually create the demiurge. Now, that little tidbit, knowing how I study different world religions and history, different things like that, that conflicted with some of the African spiritual cosmologies that I subscribe to. So I went to go sit by the water and go pray and meditate with the true creator, right? And some of my spirit team, with some of the beings in my spirit team, to fill in the gaps and to see, is this the true story? Because some about it just didn't seem, it seemed like something was missing. So I went to go and investigate for myself, is is this creation story of the demiurge true? Right? Because I do know that I know that for a fact the demiurge does exist. And I know that it is a thing, and it did create a lot of the different frameworks and things like that within or within the earthly realm, and even beyond the earthly realm as we know it. So let me go to my notes and share with y'all what I gathered. And so, one of the questions that when I speak to the creator, any of my spiritual core, I like to have like conversations with them, right? So it's like it's a conversation. It's not like necessarily me just asking a question and then meditating on it, but like it's a back and forth in tandem. And so one of the questions that I asked, or the first question rather, was that I asked was, did the demiurge actually create humanity? Because from my understanding, that's not, the demiurge didn't create humanity. For the cosmology that I subscribe to, well, that actually does. I'm not gonna get into that. If y'all are curious, I'll respond in the comment section. But anywho, so did the demiurge create humanity? This was the creator's response. It created the systems, programs, and operations of the material world. It did not create all of humanity. Once upon a time, humans had direct contact with the creator, and the world was free of corruption. And so I said, who brought the corruption? And the creator responded, dysfunction, chaos, and separation that was taking place in the heavens. So that universal law of, as above, so below, as within, so without, a lot of the what goes on in the heavenly realms is a direct mirror to what it is that goes on here on earth. So all this stuff that be going on You know what I'm saying? Like globally on a grand scale, not in the microcosm of like our like little nations, but like the grand scale of humanity, all of those different things that are going on right now, those things are also going on in the heavens. And so that's what the creator said. It was the dysfunction. It was a dysfunction in the chaos and the separation of different things that were taking place in the heavens. And so I said, okay, so I'm assuming that this is coming from the Holy Sophia birth story. So is that story not entirely true? Because one thing that I forgot to mention. So after Sophia gave birth to the Demiurge, and she saw how profane how profane it was, or he was, she abandoned him. So they cast him out of the pleroma. They cast him basically out of the heavenly realms. And so the Demiurge, being on its lonesome, not really knowing the highest truth, not knowing what the pleroma actually is or what the heavens actually is, created this earthly realm, and different things of that nature. And so that's going back to how I mentioned if the demiurge actually created humanity, because I know that it created the material world, the different systems and programs and operations of our material world, but did it actually create humans? And so the creator said, no, not all of them. Stay tuned, not all of them. And so I asked about the Holy Sophia birth story. So the Holy Sophia birth story, brought forth by the Gnostics, is not, the creator said, is not entirely true. The creator said that the demiurge did emerge from the Holy Sophia because humanity, or Earth rather, needed an overseer. And so the creator said that this demi was placed as a ruler, but went rogue. I'm trying to read my handwriting because I was about a water meditating and channeling this. But so the demiurge was placed as a ruler, but it went rogue and disregarded its trainings and provisions, because the creator grants all free will, or the true creator grants all free will. And so, and I was like, explain, like, what do you mean? The prime universal supreme creator, the true God, right, gives birth to everything. It gives birth to gods, it gives birth to men, everything. And so when a god is birthed or created, it's up to the individual creation, to choose how it will evolve. And I was like, why? Because the nature of our reality here on earth is cause and effect. It's just total and complete duality. So it is up to that entity that is created to choose how it will evolve. And so I said, so really our perception of the supreme is not who we forge it to be. And they said, correct. We suspect it to be our soul savior, but because its divine spark is in us, the expectation is that we figure it out and overcome by tuning into that spark when it is ignited. And so how does it become ignited? It can be ignited by this video. It can be ignited by different experiences and different things like that. Sometimes people are just born with it ignited, because even though this world may try to indoctrinate you and program you, because all of us are indoctrinated and programmed to some degree, right? And so when you naturally question that and go against that, that can be the spark. Then not to go against it out of chaos, because the creator actually gave me some characteristics. The creator and some of the enlightened beings of my spiritual court actually gave me some of the characteristics of people who the demiurge actually created. Because although the demiurge did not create all of humanity, it did create some humans here on this planet. And so I said, what are the characteristics of those created by the demiurge? And so it did create some humans who are part of the program. These people usually don't go against anything, or people who are naturally chaotic with no cause. So they manifest one of two ways. Well, and I'm sure there are more ways, but these are just the majority. Either they are people that just go with the flow, they don't question anything, they don't have any seven of spades energy about themselves, they don't have questions of a divine nature, seven of spades, seven of diamonds energy. They don't have that about themselves. They just kind of go with the flow. They don't question anything. They want to climb the corporate ladder, or they just want to get a good government job, or they, just want to go with the flow of their life. That whole ignorance is bliss type thing, right? Or they are people who are very, very naturally chaotic with no cause. So they are not people who fight the power for a cause, right? Like a Malcolm X or what's the dude who just passed? Not just passed, that they claim he suicide. He that didn't happen. But and I didn't follow him. But based on his content, somebody like him, David Wilcock, yeah, like based on his content, he would be somebody that would not be someone who was created by the Demiurge, because of just how like free thinking and things like that he was. And so the others of us here on the planet actually came from the 22 plus soul groups from the cosmos. And so a lot of us are the people, who, like myself, and even people maybe even watching this video who may be interested in it and maybe resonate with the content. You are people who were not, or souls rather, who were not created by the Demiurge. Sorry, my phone or my watch rather, just ping. So you are a group of people who were not created by the Demiurge, because you emerged from the cosmos, the true cosmos, the actual heavens, where the 22 plus soul groups and things like that are housed. And so I had many more questions for the creator and for my spirit team in relation to that, but I didn't want to veer too far off topic from the main purpose of this video, or for the main purpose of this video, which was to introduce the Demiurge to people that may not be aware of it, so that you can have an understanding as to why some of... Hey, Joey from Los Angeles, how many people in power follow Aleister Crowley? A lot of them. A lot of them. A lot of them. That's not this kind of live, but a lot of them. And matter of fact, they don't necessarily follow him. They follow what he followed, and even older. That is what they do. Thanks for joining, Joey from Los Angeles. Thanks for joining. He said, hey, yes, I think so. Yeah, they follow because Aleister Crowley was also trying to create his own system and different things like that, which there's nothing necessarily wrong with trying to create, your own system, because the true creator, that divine spark that's in the 22 plus soul groups of people who incarnated here on earth, like the people like the Arturians, like like the Polarians, like the Destiny Blueprinters, like the Lyrans, who else, so many different soul groups and different things like that, that are coming. That he said Beyonce, Lady Gaga, and Elon Musk. Joey. Joey, you ain't wrong. I don't think that you are. I don't think that you are wrong. They don't run our entertainers, though, don't run our world. Like, we do have an actual shadow government and different things like that. But I don't want to veer off from this video. I want to stay on topic with the Demiurge. Joey, have you heard of the Demiurge before? Are you familiar with that concept of the false god or the blind god? And while I wait on your response, let me finish my talking points from earlier. So like I was saying, I believe before I read Joey's comments, the thing that I was saying before was the Demiurge is, is one of the reasons why your prayers and manifestations and different things like that may not come to pass, is because the Demiurge, the false god, who is chaotic, is the one answering those prayers or capturing those prayers so that they don't get to the true to the actual true creator. And actually in Ifa cosmology, do I want to? I mean, it's not, this isn't a secret or anything like that. But in Ifa cosmology, with Ifa is an African traditional religion or belief system, because it's not really a religion, it's more so like of a belief system. But I digress. We have this concept of Eshu. Eshu is the divine messenger, and we have Olodumare, and Olodumare is supposed to be the prime universal supreme creator. And so Eshu is the one that carries our prayers to heaven, so that no negativities and so that no negative adversarial forces can keep our prayers rather from getting to the heart of the creator. And so it's funny that how in Ifa, or our African traditional system, it's almost like it is already aware, of this demiurge. And so Olodumare, or the creator, put something into place to make sure that our prayers actually do reach him, or do, reach the heavens and different things of that nature. But let me see. I want to make sure that I went over everything. So let me just look at my notes. Yes, on Coast to Coast. Where are you located? Oh no, Los Angeles, because your name says Joey Los Angeles. But okay. So let me give you a solution, because I don't want to introduce problems without giving people solutions. So you can connect with the true creator by setting an intention before you pray, right? And so in addition to that, I just started so set that intention before you pray to connect with the true creator. Okay, when you pray and different things like that, speak from connect via your heart and your feet. Okay, that is where your prayers and different things like that should be coming from, to ignite that divine spark in you. And there's a science to that I actually talk about in my spirit communication one-on-one class, discerning the voice of God. And so I started offering the spirit communication series because it teaches you how to discern the voices of your spiritual court to help you live a better and more fulfilled life, right? To live the life that it is that you came to earth to live, to follow that destiny, to follow that path, right? And so there are 4 courses in this series total. The first course is Spirit Communication 101, Discerning the Voice of God. 102 is Understanding and Working with Your Higher Self. 3, your ancestors, or your elevated ancestors rather. And then 4, your spirit guides. And so all 4 of those courses help you to work with your spiritual allies who are in your spiritual core by first starting with the supreme power, the prime universal supreme creator, from which some of us come from. Everybody don't come from the creator. So I'm not going to sit up here on this platform and lie to y'all. Okay, everybody don't come from the creator. Okay, everybody don't come from the creator. I'm just saying. Okay, some people come from the demiurge. Okay, but that's okay. That's your path. That's what you're here for. NPC, whatever. I don't know. I'm not sure. Maybe I'll find out. I don't know. But yeah, so 101 and 102, I'm actually offering this upcoming Saturday. It is April 26th. And so I'm offering it 101 Saturday, May 2nd, and then 102 Saturday, May 3rd. I'm sorry, Sunday, Saturday. 101 is Saturday, May 2nd. 102 is Sunday, May 3rd. And so you can go to my website. You can go to my website. And if you want to book actually any type of readings, different things like that, figuring Akashic Record sessions, figure out your master plan, to figure out which soul group and different things like that you come from. But if you want to take these spirit communication classes, or to begin the spirit communication classes. I have 101 here sold separately. 102 is also sold separately for the people who've already taken 101. And so for the people who want to take both 101 and 102 coming up this weekend, I have it in a bundle for you, and you actually save yourself a couple dollars, okay? Because if you buy them separately, then it's a little bit more. But if you buy the bundle, then you save yourself a few hours. I'm sorry, not a few hours, but a few dollars, okay? Where them dollars at? Shout out to Gangsta Boo. R.I.P. to Gangsta Boo. Where them dollars at? Where them dollars at? Yes. Okay, let me stop. Okay, it's time for me to get offline because we're stemming. We're stemming. Okay, where was I? 103 and 104 will be offered later on in May to give you all time to actually synthesize the information that 101 and 102 and to go through that activation and that attunement process that I am going to introduce to you all in class. So with that being said, thank you for joining Joey from Los Angeles from joining the live. With that being said, that concludes this video. I might do some more videos on the Demiurge because there is more to talk about, like the archons and different things of that nature. But if you guys enjoyed the video, go ahead and thumbs up, comment your thoughts down below. Okay, be respectful and don't be trying to debate me because I do not debate. Okay, I think it's stupid. I think it's stupid. Okay, to debate stuff. But anywho, I will see y'all in the next video. TTYL.